Honestly, I'm tired of repeating the same cycles. I wanna let it go. So here I go, life drop. Starting a new path for my fam. Finding who I am. Speaking life, loving me, even when I fall. Cause life be life in us all. Life be life in us all. Cause life be life in us all. Life be life in us all.
Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Portia O, your host of Life Be Life and Podcast. And I'm here once again with another episode. How y'all doing today? I'm so glad that y'all have joined me per usual. Today's episode, as you can see, I have a special guest with me. This is one of my little cousins, Deonte Bankston. Let's clap it up for him. Little, but also big. He's way bigger than me, but that's not the point. I'm the first grandchild of this side of the family. So, Deonte, how old are you now?
I just turned 28 in July.
Jesus, to be 28 again, child. That's a blessing. So glad that we have reconnected as in the
Mhm.
recent years. Deonte, I think the last time we spoke, I was asking you, like, do you remember me when you was a kid? And you was like,
Nah,
not really.
nah.
Deonte, fun fact, used to live around the corner from one of my best friends. She lived on Austin and Thomas. And Deonte lived literally across the alley from her. And I used to see him all the time. At that time, my grandparents used to come back to Chicago and visit. They would come pick him up, so they'll take me over there with them. But since I knew that from picking him up, I would always walk around the corner. And I think the candy lady was like not too far from your house too. So I
Nah,
was like,
she's right on the corner.
huh?
She's right on the corner.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's my little cousin. But yeah, that's so funny, like what memories we take and what we don't. I was much older then too, so I understand why I remember, but you were younger, so I get it. It's fine. But it's a blessing that we were able to cross paths again. And yeah, we were just talking and we have this whole podcast thing in common or whatever. And he's such an amazing young man. I've been watching him on Facebook for a while. And I'm like, oh, look at Deonte. He's so grown and just out here living his life. I love it. I love to see it. So it's a blessing. Another fun fact, me and Deonte share our fathers are brothers. My dad is the oldest of three. His dad is the youngest of the bunch. And so, yeah, that's how we're cousins. We're first cousins, like for real. So, before we get into this topic, let me introduce those who are new here. On this podcast, we talk about how life be over here, life in us, via all types of relationship situations and everyday things. We are experiencing all in real time, healing and learning how to be a better human being. Okay. So if that's what you want, you're in the right place. And if not, you're here for a reason. So take heed. So today's episode I titled From the Mouths of Babes. Me and Deonte are going to be talking about our experience essentially as children being raised with absent fathers, semi-absent fathers. I don't know. How would you categorize it?
Absent for sure. Absent.
Absent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can say semi-absent, even though my father didn't live in the home with me. I knew who my daddy was, and he would pop up. He was always around, if that makes sense, as much as he could be, I guess. Yeah, my grandparents kind of facilitated that a lot, and from my point of view. Now, I want to give a disclaimer before we even get all into this. This is from our point of views as children. That's why I named it From the Mouths of Babes, because this was our experience as the children in this scenario, right? And this is not to tear down, to vilify, or anything. We are just speaking from our experience and what we went through. And that's kind of how it shaped us as now adults, right? Keep your unkind comments to yourself. Before we get all off into it, I'm going to go into this segment called Did You Know? All right. This is where, if you didn't know, it's okay. Your girl is here to tell you something I know or I have recently learned. So, when you have an absent or semi absent father in your life, it has a huge impact on you emotionally. And according to BetterHelp.com, many people grow up in a single mother household, and single parent families are common. The list of potential challenges that children may face when raised in a father absent household is long. Here are just a few: a greater risk of poverty, increased risk of poverty, 7 times more likely to experience teenage pregnancy. Thank God we dodged that bullet. Anyway, more likely to abuse alcohol or drugs, high obesity rates, twice as likely to be a high school dropout, more likely to go to prison, and increased probability of experiencing troubled romantic relationships in the future. Deonte, I don't know how many of those.
None.
I don't feel like many.
None.
I don't know. What do you feel like you can connect with any of those?
Poverty.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna say I ain't gonna say my situation was the worst, but it wasn't,
Right.
it wasn't the best. That's the only one. Everything else, I dodged all those bullets. Like I finished school, uh,
Yes, me too.
high school pregnancy. I dodged all that. So only thing I've experienced was, I mean, and I guess you could say, the trouble in like romantic relationships. I guess you could say that
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, everything else was, I ain't experienced none of that.
Yeah, mine is the same, except for obviously the higher obesity rates. Yeah, whatever. Um, that's everything else. I dodged, thank God. Yeah, I was never into all of it. Anyway, so yeah, that was that. So yeah, those are just some things. Okay, so the next segment is I got some questions, y'all, because y'all know I'm inquisitive and I'm always gonna ask questions. One of the questions, and these are questions that you guys can write down at home that you can potentially ask yourself if this is something that you dealt with or your children are dealing with this. Who did you truly feel supported by while you were experiencing this, right? Second question, when did you realize that this was affecting you? Next question, where did you turn when you had questions and concern about your situation? Why is it important to who you are today? Okay, like this whole scenario situation that you have been essentially birthed into, why is it important to who you are today? And the last question, how often did you blame yourself for the circumstances essentially? And so we're going to flow right on to the next segment, which is this is just my life experience. Again, this is me and Deonte telling our story, not you telling our story. So just listen. All right. Deonte, from here, I will give you the floor to kind of like tell your story from your perspective, from beginning to end, whatever you want to share. Okay. When did you realize that this was affecting you?
Honestly, I didn't like I knew it. I always knew it affected me, but I didn't really like notice how much of a toll it took on me. I would say to like my sophomore year of college, honestly.
Mhm.
So I had to be like 19, 20.
Okay.
Um, I was in a relationship. Um, and I mean, it's gonna sound messed up, but I swear it's not. It's not bad. I was in a relationship, and me and my girlfriend we got into an argument,
Hmm.
and she yelled out the words, "You only act like this because your father not in your life. That's why you're so angry." And of course, at that time, it was like, I'm like, why would you say that? That's mad disrespectful, whatever. But um, after sitting down and like dissecting and digesting everything, I'm like, you know what, you're
Hmm.
right. I'm like, I do hold a lot of anger, from that. So I would say like I said, like I was like 19, 20 when I really like when it really was like apparent to me, like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm like starting to, become going to my own as a man. I'm learning to navigate life. And I'm like, yeah, this is something that's affecting me in like every aspect of my life.
Yeah. So that's at that moment you realized you were angry
Yeah.
about the whole situation. Okay. So from there, so once you realized that, did you start to, who did you turn to or where did you turn to ask questions or, tell your concerns with now you understand this displaced anger or that you acknowledge that you have this anger?
I wouldn't even say I didn't turn to anybody. Um,
Mm,
to be honest, like I didn't turn to anybody due to the fact it was like when I was growing up, I think I asked my mom probably a handful of times and the response
mm,
was always, you know, you got me. You know what I'm saying? So like I had her, so I never really questioned it because my mom she never bashed them. You know what I'm saying? It was just like when that time come, y'all had a conversation and that'll be that.
mm,
So I didn't really turn to anybody. I just I turned like that anger into passion, and I used it as motivation to finish school, to to just be successful. Like I just used that to as fuel, honestly. So I didn't really I didn't really turn into anybody. I turned it into work ethic.
mm,
It's like I don't have nothing to fall back on. So, this is why I gotta be great at everything I do. So like I just use it as motivation.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I think for me, when I realized that, I feel like I've always kind of in the back of my mind realized that it was affecting me, but I also internalized it all like completely.
Yeah.
Um, because like I said, for me, my father was there, but it was like I always imagined having this daddy's little girl. I always wanted to be daddy's little girl type relationship, which means like, oh, like he dotes over me and he's always like there and like wanting to do things for me, play with me, like whatever that looked like, right? Um, and again, I'm not saying that my father didn't do any of those things. I think it was the lack of consistency for me. Uh,
Right.
and again, being my mother being a primary parent, I'm with her majority of the time. And then with their relationship being what it was, in addition to my father getting married when I was like 4, that was just that whole dynamic was really affecting me. And I don't think they did a great job at ensuring that they work together for my good, right? So, and then also like with that, I felt like I was being pushed to the side. Like I'm missing the opportunity to connect with you because you're busy connecting with her. You're doing this, you're doing that. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
I think that's what made me grow closer to my grandparents because they used to come pick me up like every weekend. And I adored them because I saw them actively putting in that work with me, opposed to my father who would come in the house, pick me up, kiss me on the forehead, and then put me back down. Like, or he'll buy me gifts for my birthday and Christmas. And you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like
Yeah.
this is when I was much, much younger. But I always had a desire or a yearning to like connect with him. Like, I know that's my daddy, but my granddaddy over here cooking for me, my granddaddy doing this, my grandma doing, you know what I'm saying? It was different. So yeah, I think I realized it younger, but the older I got, especially when I started getting into relationships and seeking relationships, I'm like seeking that love from men that I didn't get from my father, or I felt I didn't get from my father, right? So that was a whole nother eye-opening experience. And I've kind of been on this journey since then. I've kind of been like trying to figure this whole thing out since then. But anyways, who did I go to? I used to turn to my mom all the time, like all of the time. And I would ask her questions and I would tell her my concerns. My mom, also like your mom, didn't bash my father to me, right? I
Hmm.
heard when they had arguments and situations happen, but it never was like, Portia, your daddy ain't ish. She never did that. Never.
Right.
She always taught me to respect my father despite what the situation was, right? But yeah, I turned to her a lot. I spoke on my grievances to her, my other family members on my mother's side, my uncles on my mother's side. Like I just felt like I needed a man in my life to kind of like help me through. And yeah, they showed up, but it was like it still wasn't my daddy.
Right.
So yeah. Who did you truly feel supported by during this? I mean, you already spoke towards your mother, but like, what about that really made you feel supported?
Um, that's a good question. Honestly, I've been playing sports since I was like 8.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So I always had like male figures around, you know.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
like I always felt like, and I was always transparent with, my coaches. And
mhm,
so like I always got that support from like coaches. And like when I got into high school, I ended up that's when like the behaviors and stuff started happening, and I just started acting out. And instead of my high school kicking me out, they understood what I was going through, so they put me into like a mentorship program. So I would sit with like different black men in the high school, like for
mhm,
lunch, like for a period out of for some time out of the day. And like I kind of got support from them because like I said, they kind of understood because a lot of them was in similar situations. So
mhm,
I
mhm.
kind of turned to them for support. I ain't gonna say my mama wasn't supportive. It's like my mom, she had to work because it was me and my younger sister. So it's
Yeah.
like sporting events, my mom was at work. So like I didn't really have no choice but to lean on my coaches and lean on my friends,
Mhm.
who I can, obviously you're a different person when you're around your parents at
Right.
a younger age, like you're a different person around your parents versus when you're around your friends, like your friends see the real you. So I really just leaned on them, like leaned on my friends, my teammates, and my coaches.
That's good. I mean, I never played sports like that, but like I said, I had other family members. My whole mother's side of the family was like a lot of women. I say this all the time: independent women raising more independent women, raising more independent women. Like they had children, the fathers really weren't around like that, and but they made it happen. So I can always like lean on them, like I can always go to them and feel supported. Like the women gonna show up, they gonna step regardless. Like
Right,
so, that's kind of like how we do in our culture anyway. Like that's how black women are. We gotta get it. We not ain't nothing gonna
right.
stop because something is missing, right? But
Hmm.
also, my mother worked a lot, and I think when I was much younger, she worked overnight. And I had an older brother, and his father was also absent. So it was just like my mother was for real, a single mother. But she had the help of her mother and my aunt. And, we were all kind of like just, they were all helping us along the way. Right. But yeah, I think that love that I was seeking still wasn't being fulfilled because these are women doing it for me, right? It
Hmm.
just showed me like no matter what, you got to get it. Like, and that spoke towards my work ethic, but I really didn't have that male figure on a consistent basis, kind of like showing up for me. So yeah, but that's good. Like most sports and stuff are built that way for men, right? Y'all can have y'all coaches to kind of like in that team building and all that type of stuff. That's good. But for women, I feel like I don't know. There's a there's a open market there essentially because who's looking out for the young ladies that don't have fathers?
Right.
Uh, so you did have moments as a child that you would ask your mother and you were seeking understanding of why the situation was the way that it was. Was there any point in time in your childhood that he did show up, if it even was inconsistent?
Honestly, it was like once I had to be. I want to say I was like 12. Yeah, I
Wow.
was 12. I was in sixth grade,
Hmm.
and it's like random. Like we was dropping one of my friends off. Ironically, because I moved from the neighborhood that you was talking about. I grew up around the corner. Just dropping one of my friends off, and we ended up seeing him. she stopped and pulled over, and we ended up talking. He took me to play basketball one time, and like after that, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, my pop's gonna be around, and it's like I'm constantly calling, and I just remember us having a conversation, and he was like, I don't have no money, and I'm like, bro, I ain't asking you for money. Like I don't, that ain't what I need. That's not what I'm looking for. And after that, it was just like, it was honestly like after that conversation, it was like, F him. You know what I'm saying? Like, if
Mm,
that's what you think I need from you, I don't. You know what I'm saying? My mama been making it happen for this long, and she gonna continue to make it happen. So
mhm.
it's like at that point, it was like, whatever, I don't need you.
It speaks to so many things, like the lack of understanding of your role as a parent, and everything ain't about money.
Yeah,
But it speaks to immaturity as well, and I guess somewhat of ignorance on his part. And it's sad. It really is sad because it really didn't have to be that way. But because he lacked understanding himself of what he needed to be doing or what he could do to kind of like make your life better, and is essentially it comes off real jackass. This I don't know, like it's
yeah,
really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate, but a lot of people be out here thinking that way and like viewing it that way. But then here it go planting a seed in you to be like, F him. I don't need him. Da, 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 da. You know what I'm saying? Which could have been the beginning of your whole anger situation, right? Um,
yeah.
how often did you blame yourself, if ever, that he wasn't around? Like, did you ever have those type of thoughts?
Not often,
Okay.
honestly.
Mm,
I wasn't even the type of person, and I'm still the type of, I don't even get into all that. I just look at the situation as it is what it is, and I've been like this since I was a kid. Like, it is
mm,
what it is. I don't really, when it's stuff like that, I don't really need an explanation. I just take it at face value and just, kind of move forward. Like, I
mhm,
don't know. I never was the type, oh, it's my fault that he not around. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
mm,
he ain't his. Like, I always had the mindset, like, it's him missing out. I'm not missing out on
mm,
anything.
yeah,
That's always been my mindset.
yeah. That's good because I was the opposite. I was the opposite. I was the one that, like I said earlier, I would internalize everything. Like, but what is it about me? Am I not good enough? Like, why doesn't he want to be around me? What, like, I don't want to make him uncomfortable. I don't, as a kid, like, can you imagine as a kid you processing things that way? Like,
Yeah,
that sucks. That shouldn't be your mindset as a kid trying to manage an adult actions, or like wanting them to, or I don't know. It was just, but I internalized everything. So I received everything like I was the problem. Um, and if I wasn't showing up a certain way, maybe that's why he don't want to be around me. Even when he was around me, it would last for so long, and I'd be like, "Oh, I had so much fun," and then I probably won't kick it with him for a minute again, and I'd be like, "Why he's not calling? Why he's not showing up? Why he not being here? Is it me? What I do? What I do?" Like it's always me, and I don't think I was super vocal about that all the time. I would just go inside myself. But if my mom asked me a question or something, and I'll be like, "Well, what about my daddy?" And the craziest part about it was I was so afraid of my father. It was ridiculous. Like my mama could tell me something. I was afraid of my mama too. Don't get it twisted. But she could tell me something, and I'd be like, okay, like dismissive essentially to an extent. And then she like, I'm gonna call your daddy. I'd be like, wait a minute, I'm gonna straighten up. And the man never did anything to
yeah,
like prompt that. But I think it was such desire to be wanted and desired by him. I want to please him in any capacity. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want him to look at me that way because maybe that'll be another thing that makes him not want me. You know
right,
what I'm saying? Or not want to spend time with me. So please don't make me look
right.
bad. Like that's crazy. Yeah, it'd be so many things. I don't think people really realize like all the strife you be going through, that you could put your child through. And it's not, I know it's not purposeful, right? At
Mm,
least from our parents' perspective, I don't believe that it was purposeful. I don't think they were trying to be malicious or F them kids. It
right.
was just they were dealing with their own ish as trying to figure out how to be an adult, you know.
Yeah.
Do you know how old your father was when he had you?
I want to say he was 17, turning 18, but
Jesus.
he had a child before me. My older sister, he was 15,
Right.
so he's a baby.
A baby. A
You
baby
know.
having babies.
Yeah.
That was another interesting thing for me. I don't think at the time when I was a kid and we would go pick up your sister with my grandparents that I realized how old he was. Like there wasn't how old is he now? I'm 35. I think he's 45
He
now,
40.
right?
He 40. 46. You 46 right now. He'll be 47.
Okay, he'll be 47 top at the end of the year. Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
like 11 years apart. Like
Right.
he was a kid when I came around, and he was having kids when I was a kid. He was still a kid, and I don't
Right.
think I realized at that time that my uncle was a kid. Like I just that
Hmm.
was my uncle, and to know that he had a baby, it just wasn't making sense to me that way. It was just like that's my uncle. He's older than me, whatever.
Hmm.
But when I learned of that story as an adult, especially with um, his first child, I was like, oh my gosh, like I felt compassion for him. I felt empathy for him because I'm like, and then, having old school parents on both sides that, they always want to kind of shush stuff or, you know what I'm saying? Or just take control of it and like, y'all not really
Yeah.
taking no responsibility. He's out here doing grown up things, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And for him to do it 2 years later, I don't know. I don't know. But also, you can't completely blame the child for making foolish mistakes. The adults have to take some responsibility in that, right? But
Yeah.
also, that's not these babies' fault either, Y'all didn't have to be here. So it's just such a messed up situation.
Yeah.
It's a messed up situation. So when you learned like how old he was, and your mom was she the same age?
Nah, my mom older than him. My
Okay,
mom was 19 turning 20.
okay.
Yeah.
But she still was young. Like that's
Still
still
right. She's still navigating and trying to figure out life herself.
yeah, she's still developing it all too. So there's that. But how does that make you feel like once you knew like how old he was? Like did that make you feel any type of way?
No. Like it's blatant like no.
Like
Because
now?
again, I'm the type of person. I mean, now looking at it, like obviously it makes sense, But at that time, it was like
Mhm.
exactly what you said. I didn't ask to be here. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's life. It happens. You do something, you figure it out, and you take care of your responsibility. That was my mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, now I understand. Like, oh, okay, you's a baby trying to, you trying to navigate life, or you trying to, put life into other, people. Like you're
Yeah.
responsible for two other people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And you don't even understand who you are as a person at that
That
time. So
part. That
yeah,
part. Yeah, it's pretty sad. But that's hard. That's hard. When did you come to terms like okay, so you had that experience in college that you really like recognized that this is some deep rooted anger that is presenting itself now. So what did you start doing differently? Because you had some people that you looked up to, some mentors, some people you can lean on, your coaches and things like that, but it it clearly wasn't enough. Do you agree?
Right. Yeah.
So what did you start doing now? I mean, you said you finished school, you turned that into work ethic or whatever, but what did you start doing emotionally to kind of like process this thing? Like, did you reach out anymore after 12 or what?
Nah. Nah, it was over with. I really started compartmentalizing. It's like I
Mm,
was able to like put it in a box and put it in the back of my mind. It's like it is what it is. I'm not even gonna, lie. I despised him. Like his presence alone annoyed me.
mm.
So like, because we always having like family gatherings or whatever, and I see him and it's like, so, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
wait.
Like
So
I was,
you was like seeing him.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what would happen when you see him? Like he wouldn't try to approach you?
Uh, Not all the time. I think the last time he really tried to approach me, I had to be like 16, and his like first words to me was like, "You looking at me like I'm just a guy," and I was like, and I told him like, "You are just a guy. Like you ain't been there for me. Like I don't understand why you approaching me wanting some type of respect. You ain't did nothing for me, you know."
Mm,
So, uh, nah, like as far as me reaching out, nah, it was after 12. He's like, "Nah, I'm good. Like I don't." Again, I don't need you.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it just kind of carried over.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that you were like being put in positions that you had to be around him and then not.
It, it wasn't that I was, like being put in positions. It's like because it's so crazy. Because then we moved onto Fulton and Mason, and then my cousins live right across the street. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
like my mom is crazy. My mom is closer to my dad's side of the family than I am. You
Wow.
know what I'm saying? So I don't even like I come around every now and then. Like even now, I come around every now and then. So
Me
it was the same thing. Like I come to a cookout
too.
or
Yeah.
something, and I'm with my mom or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, Tay, there go your," and it's like, "All right, so what? Like, what you want me to say?" Like it's like, "All right, he here, I'm here," and moving on.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, my mother wasn't close to that side of the family, but I rarely came around, and I'm trying my best now to like do better about that. But also, um, like I feel like people know me, but they don't know me because he didn't really bring me around. Like he brought me around every now and then, and
Right,
but I didn't get to cultivate those relationships like the other cousins did because they've kind of been around each other, and that was that side of the family, like where their moms were. Right, I'm on the opposite side, and when my
right,
dad felt the need to bring me around, that's when I came around. If he didn't, then I didn't. But he had a close relationship with them because he grew up with them. You know what I'm saying? So I always kind
right.
of feel some type of way about that. So I'm like, I really don't know my daddy's side of the family like that.
I'm
Um,
the same. It's the same thing every time I come. The same thing you said to me when you first seen me. Oh man, do you remember me? No. Like I get that. I get that all the time. Like,
all
oh
the
man, I
time.
remember when you was just so you don't know. I do not remember you. I don't know you.
None of
Like,
that.
you know? So it's the
Yeah,
same thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I get that too. I get that too. It's just so funny. I think with me and you, I that was such a core memory for me. Because I know like my grandparents would pick me up. They always have James, our other cousin. So they'll pick
Yeah.
me up and then they'll go get Brittany and then they'll come get you, like, as it was happening or when they could. So I guess that was just like a core memory for me. Like that was a regular routine. They would always pick up the grandkids. We'll go to grandparents' house and we'll be there. You know what I'm saying? So, But for you, I can understand. Like I said, you were much younger, so I'm sure it wasn't. I don't know if it made an impact on you or not, or if it was a major deal. But yeah, it's it happens all the time. They be like, "Yeah, girl, I know," and it'd be so funny now. Like I have to introduce myself, like I'm Tony's daughter. And they be like, "Oh, I didn't know." Like, oh my, I'm like,
Mm. See, I don't even introduce myself. I'm just there.
"You just there." Oh my
I'm
gosh.
just there.
I think that speaks to me still wanting to belong, right? And even though I have a solid relationship with my mother's side of the family, like I'm not concerned whatsoever. It's still like that part. If I had, and it still speaks towards if I had this connection with my father, I would have this connection with this family. But because I lack
Right.
that connection with him, I lack this connection with y'all. So I always feel awkward when I come around because it's like, well, y'all don't really know me and I really don't know y'all, but I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I desire that because I'm still desiring a relationship with my father. Like,
Yeah.
um, so there's that. So fast forward, after you finish college and everything, when did you guys cross paths again to kind of like get to some type of relationship?
I love this question. I've been asked this question so many times. So it's a funny story, right? I graduated college in December of 2017. Me and my girlfriend was sitting there, we was talking,
Mm-hmm.
and she asked the question. She was like, "How would you feel if your dad texted you?" She's like, "Do you think he gonna text you?" I said, "I know he is." Sure enough, because I had just like started talking to his sister, Trina. So I
Oh,
had just started, like she had reached out to, well, I had reached out to her to get into contact with my siblings. Cause I'm like, just because, I don't have a relationship with him, don't mean, I, can't have a relationship with my siblings.
question.
So
What made you go to her instead of him?
I didn't want to talk to him. Like at that point, like you're not providing anything for me. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so social media. I was friends with everybody on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, I'm friends with everybody on social media. So I see what's going on. And, I got to be honest, like how you yearn for like to be connected with the family. I never yearned for that. I just wanted the relationship with my siblings. Like I didn't really care about, being involved with the cousins, the auntie. I didn't care. But yeah, back to the question. I had I was talking to his sister, so she had my contact information or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So um sure enough, 2 weeks later after I graduated, I get a text message. He's like, he said what he said. And still at the time, I'm like, I don't really got nothing to say to you. Appreciate it, move on. So fast forward to 2020, January 31st, 2020. I just got home from work, I believe, and he shot me a text and he was like, yo, I just want to sit down and talk about, why things were the way they were. Uh, would you be willing? And again, I'm like, I took some time to respond. I'm like, nah, I ain't even, so at that time I called my girl. I'm like, yo, I'm like, guess who just texted me? And she's like, she knew. She was like, your daddy? I'm like, yeah. So she was like, I told her what was going on, and she was just like, honestly, she was like, what do you have to lose going into the situation? What do you have to lose? And
Mm-hmm.
at that point, it's like everything just came full circle and it resonated. I'm like, I mean, what am I losing giving him a chance to explain himself?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think what was like February 8th, 2020, like we sat down, we had a conversation, and then I just told him right then and there, I'm like, bro, like if you're gonna be around, I don't I don't need you for money. I don't need you coming in trying to be my daddy and being some like figure that you think you're gonna discipline me because I'm bigger than my daddy too. So
just,
like
just to let y'all know.
you know, just sidebar, like I'm bigger than him too. So
Mhm.
it was just like, I don't need you to come in and be some drill sergeant. Like, bro, just be consistent, you know, be a parent. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And ever since that conversation, we've been locked in.
So he took heed, and was willing to show up any way that you needed him to.
Yeah.
That's good. So how has that made you feel? Like when it first started, did you think like for real in the back of your head, like this nigga ain't gonna be consistent? Like what?
Honestly, I had no expectations.
Mm,
I really had no expectations. Like I said, once again, like it was just like go into it with no expectations because I don't have nothing to lose. Like I've
yeah,
made it. I was 24 at the time. So I'm like, there's been 24 years of my life where you have not been present. So it's like, you know what's the worst that could happen? You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, all right, whatever. But no, like he was like consistent off the back. Like he was just calling me too much. Like, like ease up.
this
Yeah,
is a
so
lot.
yeah, and I think it had a lot to do with him being excited that I was
Really?
kind of receptive to it and I was willing and I was like, you know what? It is what it is. So yeah, like I said, he's calling me too much. I'm like, damn, stop calling me, bro.
At what point did you share with your mom like y'all were building on y'all relationship?
From day one. Like when I first got the text message, I told her, I'm like, you know, we agreed to sit down and have a conversation and she was cool. She was like, that's good, go get that information and find out, what was what. So
Mm,
like from day one, she was supportive of it. She knew everything. And then so too, like after we sat down and had a conversation, I came back and I had to verify the information that I was given. Like, all right, so this was said, and did this play out like that? And everything came back, true. So I was like, okay, cool.
okay. Well, that had to make you feel good, right? Because it wasn't like he came to you with some lies and excuses and blah blah
Yeah,
blah. Like he gave you
yeah,
his point of view.
yeah. I mean, and that's when I started, to make go full circle conversation, go full circle, and that's when I understood age because that's when his parents moved to Georgia. He didn't have a choice. He a
Yeah,
baby. You know what I'm saying? So that's when it all started to make sense. It was like I didn't leave you because I didn't like you. I didn't want you. He was like I left because I didn't have a choice. And it
yeah,
was like I didn't. He's like, now could I have kept in contact and made it my business to do all that? Absolutely. He was like, but
yeah.
I didn't leave by choice. I left by force. I didn't have a choice to go. So
Because
that's when that came full circle.
yeah, I believe at that time too, he was getting in a lot of trouble,
Yeah,
and that
being stupid.
landed on their decision too to like kind of get from Chicago
Yeah,
to maybe it will help him not be so involved in all the foolishness in the streets. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, that wow, wow. Listen, I mean, but now, I mean, because he's been an adult for a while since that situation. Um,
yeah,
but now he's come to some type of resolve within himself that he even wanted to reach out to you in the first place. You know,
hmm
uh, that was a big move. That was a big move. So we're grateful for that. Similar to you guys, man, I get was that 2020? So I had, for me, I went and stayed with my father for my high school years because when I got ready to go to high school, I was going to the school up north, Chicago. And I was applying for all these high schools and stuff, and I wasn't getting into the places I wanted to go to because I was a very mediocre student. But anywho, um,
Same. I ain't care about school.
um, But so in my neighborhood school was Simons, and my mama was like, "No, you would not be going there." And I was like, "Please don't send me there." Like my brother went to Prosser, so I was trying to go to Prosser. But anyway, my dad lived in Bellwood at the time, and he was like, "Why don't she come out here? She's going to Proviso West. It's a decent school, blah blah blah, whatever." So they made that decision for me to go stay with my father during high school. In order for me to go to school, I had to stay there because they used to check and stuff. Um, but on the weekends, my mom worked right around the corner from my dad's house, so um, on the weekends, I would go back home, what I considered home, to my mama's house every weekend.
Mhm.
But anyways, so I thought that this is going to be breakthrough. This is going to be the time we're going to build on our relationship and do all the things, and not so much. Like I feel like we made small, very tiny steps. But again, because I was a child, I was viewed as a child at all times. And not that I was trying to be an adult. It was just when I really got serious about my relationship with God was when I was like 15, 16. And I told my dad, because I was listening to the word and all that type of stuff, and I was like, I need to talk to you and I need to let you know how I feel. I'm 16, and it started off us sitting down having a nice and easy conversation, and it kind of like me pointing out some truths to him. He took offense, got upset, was like, "You a child, you don't tell me, blah, 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 blah." And that was the end of that. That was the last time I tried to talk to him because, again, he dismissed me and got offended and everything. So fast forward to me being an adult, my mom kept like prompting me, like, you need to talk to him. For me, my mom and dad have always been in communication, and now they're like the best of friends, whatever. But they always been like they have not always been cool, but especially since my mama got saved, okay, thank you, Lord, they relationship kind of like evened out. Like she stopped being that baby mama that was kind of like going in on him all the time. And he would even make jokes about, I'm so glad your mama got saved because Lord Jesus. My mom used to always, he would always tell my mom how he felt about me, but he wouldn't tell me. But I'm the one that needs to hear it from you. I don't need to hear it from my mama, right?
Right.
And he would use my mom as the communication piece in between us. Like she was the me, which I never understood why. Like he felt much more comfortable telling her than telling me. I don't know if it was for fear of judgment or what, or just really addressing this thing that you have created, right? So anyway, I think it was 2020. That's so crazy that this happened same year for us. Because even I got married and everything. My dad was, supportive. Uh, anyway, he was supportive. He was around for the birth of my kids. He was sitting in the hospital with me. Everything like he would show up for those times. But anyways, when I was going through my marriage and stuff, and I was telling my husband, like, he knew how I felt about my dad and like the problems I was going through emotionally because of that. And he was always super supportive of me, like, you need to talk to your father, let him know, stand up for yourself, da 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 da. And I just kind of felt like if I say it ain't gonna change nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm tired of constantly being the one. Why do I always have to reach out? Why do I always the one calling? Why am I always the one facilitating this relationship? If you want a relationship with me, show me you want a relationship with me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, anyways, my mom again at this time, it's like you need to let your daddy know how when he does this, because we'll get in front of people and he'll be all, this my baby, kissing and hugging all over me, and I love her so much, and she's everything to me. And I'm like, I ain't talked to you in I don't know how long, but you want to put on this show in front of everybody. That's how I felt, right? To make it seem like you're the best father in the world. And I'm like, everybody sings his praises, especially when we go around his family, they like, oh, Tony, they just be going crazy. And I'm like, what?
Right.
And they be like, you so lucky, he's your father. And I'm like, y'all ain't live my life. Okay.
Exactly. If this luck, I don't want it.
Hello? Like, what are we talking about? We had a conversation. I was like, Dad, we need to talk. Because at this point, I have been in therapy and I'm really finding my voice to like stand up for myself and kind of like do better by me. So I was like, Dad, we need to talk. Like, because he was saying how he wanted to be in my kid's life. And I was at that point in my life, I'm like, I'm not going to let anybody hurt my babies, right? Those are my babies. I will never allow anybody to treat them the way that I've been treated. So, in order for you to want to cultivate this relationship with your grandkids, I'm gonna need us to get some type of understanding, right? And you're gonna need to hear everything I need to say. And we got on a Zoom call, and I laid it all out from when I was a little girl to when I stayed with him and his wife till my adult years. Like laid it all out, just put
Yeah.
all my feelings out there. And yes, he got high in his emotions at points, but I didn't back down. I didn't cower like I would used to do when I was younger. Because it's not, I understand hearing that makes you feel some type of way because that probably wasn't your intention, but that's the way I received it as your child. And that's the truth. You have to acknowledge that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we talked and he was like, I didn't know this had happened. I didn't know that this was what you thought. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And I understand you didn't know, but I'm letting you know this was my experience. And
Mm-hmm.
so he heard me and he was like, it's nothing we can do about the past now. We put it all out there and we're going to move forward. All I could do is show up differently for you. And even previously to this talk, we had an instance. I think one time we road trip to Georgia to see my grandparents. And on the way back, me and him was in the car by ourselves and we talked. And he was like, he was never because it was a whole story out there that he denied me, and I kind of confronted him with that because it was something that was like within me, like what's up with that? Like you knew you was with my mama, like it was the whole thing. But anyway, he kind of acknowledged that, and then another time he came back from Georgia and he visited, and he told me, he was never really taught how to love. Like I just kept getting little moments of little pieces to kind of like piece together why he was presenting the way that he was presenting for me, right? But then the 2020 conversation happened. So anyway, since then, it still has been a struggle at moments. But last year, my father got sicker around Thanksgiving. And right before that, we had just went to Vegas for his vow renewal in
Mm-hmm.
October. But we call ourselves doing better, but I still was feeling some type of way. Since then, he got sick that Thanksgiving last year. And since that moment, because he was so far away from me, I felt obligated. I'm an empath, and I want to care for everybody that's in my circle. Like, I'm obligated to take care of my parents. That's how I feel. My mother has dealt with sickness pretty much majority of my life. And now my father's dealing with it. I'm like, I need to show up for him. But he all the way across the country. So I was like, well, I could show up by communicating with him, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
started calling him like every day. And like, if not every day, every other day. Like, hey
Mm-hmm.
dad, how you feeling? What's going on? And I really felt like God allowed certain things to happen, kind of like probably to slow him down and like to pull on my heart too, for us to facilitate our relationship further. And within these conversations this last year or so, my dad has disclosed a lot of things to me as far as his emotional health, his mental stability as a younger man, even to
Mm-hmm.
current. And it just made me understand him so much more than I ever would have given him grace for in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but had we not broken it all down and kind of started to rebuild, we would have never got here, right? Um,
Right.
so I'm just grateful that we are constantly building on our relationship. And even though I feel like there are still some unhealed areas with our relationship, we're doing our best now to actively cultivate a solid foundation. Because that's essentially what's been missing, right? The solid foundation of the relationships with us and our father.
Yeah.
But now we're getting the chance to kind of like build them up and be better. Like, so y'all, how often do y'all talk now?
Oh, like every other day,
Yeah.
almost. Yeah, like every other day. I'm at his crib almost every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like I said, since 2020, we've been locked in.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you think it's helped with your anger?
Yeah, yeah. I remember just because even after the conversation that we had back in 2020 when he just laid everything out and how everything played out, he called again like a couple days later, and we ended up having a conversation again. And when we had that conversation, he apologized,
Mm.
and I don't know why, like that turned me into a child.
Ooh.
Like that, like just hearing the words "I'm sorry," all the emotions I had felt all my life,
Mhm.
from this situation just came out, and I started like ugly crying, and I was like, after that, from that day forward, I just felt like a release,
Mhm.
like I can let go of everything,
Yeah.
because there's like all in all, that's what we're looking for. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like some form of accountability
Yeah.
to say, you know what, I messed up,
Mhm.
and like at that point, like I said, it was just after that, it was just a release, and I was done. Like I was like, all right, well, now that I got that, like let's move forward.
That's crazy. That's crazy. So you essentially forgave him.
Yeah, and it wasn't even for him; it was for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I needed that to grow as a person. Because like obviously, I had just finished school. You know what I'm saying? I'm learning how to navigate because from what 5 to you go to college 5 to like 22, 23, all you know is school.
Yep.
So now I'm like navigating the world as an adult.
Mhm.
So I'm going into another chapter of my life. It was like I needed that.
So this relationship now you feel like um is shaping you into the man that you want to be or that you are because you are a full blown man now.
Yeah, this I think at that point like that changed the trajectory of who I was becoming as a person.
Mm.
Um, like I said, it was just something I needed to
Mhm.
to move forward and like to continue to grow as a person.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's played a huge role in even like dealing with relationships in general, with people in general. It's
Mhm.
I don't like, especially in my relationship, it was like she even told me, she's like, you just seem happier. Like you don't walk around with this edge, like you gotta, it's you against the world. She's like, you just
Mhm.
seem so much more free.
Mhm.
She was like, you smile a lot more too. I still don't really smile that much, disclaimer, but she was like, you smile way more now. Like,
Mm.
um,
Have y'all still been having like some difficult conversations?
yeah. Like when I talk about stuff that I went through, growing up, um, it's like and it for me, it's not really hard. It's like really just it's really me giving insight on like why I am the way I am.
Mhm.
Outside of the situation with him, and it's like going through certain stuff in life, and he's like, man, I wish I was there. Like I wonder how would life be. So I guess you could say it's difficult for him. For me,
Mhm.
not so much because it already happened. You know what I'm saying? I don't really live off the woulda, shoulda, couldas. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. So I guess for him it's more so difficult because it's like, man, I should have been around for this. Like you shouldn't have had to go through this by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I said difficult because, like I said, for me, I think I felt like I didn't have a voice or a valid voice, or that I
mhm,
wasn't going to be heard or respected, or what I had to say would be honored. So for me, still having these conversations at times, I feel like it could be difficult for me because I'm like steadily trying to find my voice and to speak out and stand in who I am and not feel like I'm gonna be pushed to the side. You know what I'm saying? Um, so yeah, I guess that's why I'm always curious to how people process things. But even with us, our takeaways were kind of different. Essentially, like I said, I self internalized everything, and you were just kind of like push that over there. I'm good, whatever. At the end of the, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
but I guess it could speak towards men and women or girls and boys and how they process things, or
mhm,
women are much more emotional based than men, typically. So it could have been that too. And we're experiencing life totally different as a man and a woman. So
mhm.
there's that. Wow. So was there anything else you wanted to share based off your relationship or anything like that?
Um, nah, like everything was. I think I pretty much laid everything out there. Like I said, like we've been locked in since
Hmm.
2020. Like he get on my nerves at times, but that's my dog though. Like I know now, like if I need him, I can call him, you know,
Yeah.
and I know he'll show up.
Yeah. Oh, that was another question. Did you successfully cultivate those relationships with your siblings that you wanted to?
Oh yeah, them we locked in for sure. Like I got them
Mhm.
10,000%. Like I talk to them all the time too. Well, I talk to Brittany all the time. Jalen be in his own world doing his own thing. So I talk to him every other week or whatever the case may be.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, I'm my father's only child, so I didn't really have nobody to connect with. Outside of my brother, who also dealt with an absent father situation. And my brother used to get mad at me because he was older. He's almost 3 years older than me. He would be, when I would complain about my father as a kid and stuff like that, and he'd be like, at least you have a father, right? Because my brother's father was completely absent, like was
right,
not there whatsoever. And I was like, what do you mean? Like I always felt equivalent to him. Like, dude, my daddy ain't here either. He like, no, at least your daddy come around. At least you can call him. At least you can, what I'm saying, locate him. You got a whole other side of the family. At least you got grandparents. His parents are showing up for you. My brother had none of that. He only had
right,
my mother's family, you know? So I can understand that now for sure. But as a kid, I was like, hey, we in this together. Like, he like, no, your situation is totally different. Um,
hmm
so yeah, that was that. So all right, this has been really good. I feel really good about this. These are people that are very near and dear to my heart. My uncle, I adore him. A lot of people said as I was growing up, like, Portia look like your child. Like that he look like he could be your daddy. I'm like, yeah,
that's hilarious.
we favor, huh?
That's hilarious. That's funny.
We favor a lot. I think I look a lot more like him, younger him, and my auntie Trina more so than I do my dad. Like I always felt that way. But it'd be so funny. People think I look a lot like him and my grandfather, my grandmother. Like yeah, everybody but my daddy. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, these are people that are very near and dear to my heart, and obviously we want nothing but the best. And we're grateful that we're able to even like have these conversations and with them and heal these parts of ourselves. Do you feel the same way, Deonte?
Yeah, I do. You said I don't wish nothing bad on nobody. I'm glad everybody, working all the issues. I mean, this is for anybody out there in life, period.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you know, work those issues out, heal those childhood traumas
Mm-hmm.
because they haunt you in your older years. Like you
Yeah.
may be somebody like me that's able to push everything off to the side, but it's gonna come to a point where you got to face it.
Yep. Every time. Every time. Definitely got to face it. So that takes us to the next segment, which is tools from the toolbox of life. This is where I share some resources or advice or whatever, some tools that you can utilize in order for you to be better. How to overcome emotional impact according to BetterHelp. One way is to allow yourself to grieve the situation, right? Mm. I had a lot of those moments. I don't know about you, Beyonce, but I had a lot of those moments of me grieving the lack of my father being present the way I wanted to, but
Hmm.
also, and within, it's hard to grieve something when you know you still can access it.
Right.
So that was a little more difficult. But I would try to be like, you know what, Portia, you don't need that. It's okay. You're getting this, you're getting that. Like you could fill it with something else, fill the void. Um,
Yeah.
that was that was the thing. But thank God we were able to process this before it was too late. Another thing which Beyonce spoke towards earlier was to forgive your dad, right? And again, forgiveness is not for them necessarily. It's for you. It's for you because it's something that you need to resolve within yourself with the whole
Yeah.
situation. Another thing you can do is focus on building your self esteem. For Beyonce, he didn't too much speak towards that. Like it was a problem for you, but also you turned it into a passion and your work ethic and all of that. So that builds your self esteem because you pretty much is like, I'm an overcomer, period. I don't need this. I'm gonna do this instead, right?
Yeah. I mean after I forgave him though, it was like, now what do I use to fuel me to keep going?
Mm,
Because that fueled me for so long. And then
yeah.
it's like now I don't even have it. I don't have it. So now again, I got to fill that void to figure out how, do I keep, pushing forward because now I don't have that to motivate me as much.
Mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm,
I still kind of tap back into it, like, like when life get tough, I'm just like, you know what? I've been here before.
mm.
With
Yeah.
my back against the wall, and everybody had those moments you feel like you all alone. So I just tap back into that, from time to time. But that was one of the questions I asked myself after forgiving him, like damn, like now how do I, keep fueling that fire?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
And for me, focusing on building my self esteem, definitely where I have been for this last 2 years, which was what this podcast was some pretty much birthed out of me building my self esteem, me pushing forward Portia, me loving on Portia, despite if anybody else do or don't. Like, yeah, I've definitely been focusing on building my self esteem. Beyonce, have you ever did therapy or been a part of therapy?
shout out to my therapist, man. I've been in therapy for 6 months. 6 months.
Nice.
I've been in therapy since February 28th. So a little bit over 6 months. So shout out to her.
Yeah.
And because I was one of those people, I was completely against it. Like at first, I'm like, because of the way it's portrayed in movies and just on TV
Mhm,
in general, like, being a black
mhm.
man, I'm like, I'm not going to sit down with no white person and tell them my problems because they can't relate.
That
But,
part.
growing as a person, you realize, especially now I work at a school, I work at a therapeutic day school as well. So,
Mm,
I work with kids.
that's so funny. You as a grown man working a therapy-based school for kids, something you probably could have utilized when you were a kid.
Yeah. So, like I just look at it as, that's why I'm able to just be transparent. And I got tired of walking around with a lot of burdens, and I was like, you know
Mhm.
what, it's time for change.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
again, how can I fuel this fire to keep going, to keep growing? So therapy was one of the things. It was actually shout out to one of my guys that I did my podcast with. Shout out to him because he was
Mhm.
one of the people that pushed me to get into therapy. I seen how it changed him. So
Yeah.
like that's probably the most stubborn person I know. So I was like, if it could change you,
Right, right, right. Did your therapist, is she a Black woman?
she is. She
Hmm.
is.
Yeah. I also have a Black woman therapist. I've been in therapy since 2019, after giving birth to my second child. But it has helped me tremendously. Like, I love therapy. I'll always be an advocate for therapy. I would tell my mama and my daddy, y'all need to go to therapy, child. But it's not from a place of judgment. It's just like it really does help
It
you
helps.
grow and evolve and cultivate those spaces in you that are broken. And
Hmm.
hearing their stories individually and personally, I'm like, you could really utilize this space to kind of like help you navigate the rest of your life.
Yeah,
But to each his own, it's a good resource. I'm glad that you finally went and did that. That's super great and awesome. I will advocate for everybody to do it because, yeah, we all got some stuff. We all got some stuff. Okay. Another tool you can utilize is find a mentor that you can count on. Okay. If these are for those who don't believe in therapy, and even if you do, you still can get a mentor if you would like. But if you want to do life coaching, that's another option, or find a mentorship program, something like that. Grown-ups can have mentors too. It's not a
sure.
common thing. If you find somebody that is much more proficient in this area that you feel like you lack in, it's okay to get into that space. So, and also, yeah, even if it's a friend that you consider, somebody you can count on and kind of lean on, and that always means means good for you or whatever. Another tool you can use is let go of any guilt. Okay, Deonte, do you feel that you still hold on to guilt?
What you mean?
Like, is there any guilt that you feel towards yourself for not showing up differently throughout y'all relationship? Like even when you were like F him after that one conversation, or do you feel like you could have been reached out or maybe kind of pushed this along much earlier or whatever? Do you feel any guilt?
Nah, I don't feel guilt. I feel like everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I wouldn't be who I am today had I not, acted the way I acted.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I just feeling guilt, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I do wonder sometimes, like, how would life have been differently had I, pursued it early on in life? But to
Mm-hmm.
say guilt, nah.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, my guilt just shows up as me not standing in who I am much sooner, period. Because it was always a part of me. I just was afraid to tap into it because, again, I don't want to push you away or make you think. But at the end of the day, I have no control of other people's feelings, emotions, thoughts, or whatever, right? But before I felt that way, like my actions would cause you to react this way. But if I would have did something, maybe it would have caused us to be building much sooner than we did. And so I kind of have a little guilt there at times with myself. Like, you should have been just standing in you. Maybe this would have been
Mhm.
different. But, that's my own personal stuff. So let go of any guilt because it's really not your fault. All right. And lastly, learn how to have healthy relationships. Okay. So, mm, do you feel like you're learning how to have healthy relationships, Deontay?
Yeah, therapy helping out a lot with that. Uh,
Mhm.
I would say in the sense of learning how, like, on the romantic side, like learning how to love properly,
Mm,
um, and not be so closed off. Be vocal about how I feel. That's why I say, like, for those people, who don't watch, it's I feel like it's easier to, tap into, being more emotional about it, because when you push everything off to the side, like, it's just a build up. You know what I'm
mm-hmm.
saying? So it's like some blockages there when you start to deal with, adults in general, and you get into these relationships, and it's like you closed off because you start to see like certain signs, or you got trust issues. I have major trust issues. I don't trust nobody due to, that.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah, I totally agree. That was a trigger for me to start therapy is because of my marriage and my familial relationships and my friendships. I felt like I wasn't showing up.
mhm.
Um, and I felt like I was struggling. I felt like I was drowning. I'm like, everybody else make this look so easy. What's wrong with me? And so I dived into therapy because of that, so that I could cultivate or just keep building healthy relationships. But in the midst of doing that, a lot of relationships that I was trying to keep at that time, child, I don't have no more. So there's that. Everybody can go with you as you grow and evolve and get
So
better. So
that's it. Everybody can't go.
everybody can go. Um, because I think we're so conditioned in the negative space that when we do try to be in a positive space, it's just like, oh, this ain't it. Like the light is shine all over that mess. So yeah, I'm definitely doing my best. And I refuse now to have any relationship that feels inauthentic or a person is being not showing up as themselves or whatever. Like
Yeah.
now I have hard boundaries. Like, nope, I can't do it. I mean, I can love you from a distance, but it won't be like no personal relationship. I want healthy relationships no matter what. If I'm not getting
Mhm.
that, then we ain't gonna be in a relationship. No hard feelings. It is what it is. Um, so yeah, you ain't got to worry about me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this was really good. I'm so grateful to have had this time with my cousin. So before we get out of here, let me just do these last two segments really quickly. Life be life in us all. Hey, hashtag the village. This is where I have you all, my listeners, friends, and family, submit news, topics, and other requests to me to talk about. Y'all want to hear me talk about it? Shoot me an email. My DMs are open, whatever it is, by way to get in communication with me and let me know what y'all want to hear about. What more can we talk about? Okay. Y'all know I always end the podcast with this. So this is the segment where I leave you with a call to action for yourself, but not just for you, but for me as well. So I'll leave you with these words to hold on to until next time. Okay. Today's Speak Life affirmation is I am allowed all the time I need to recover emotionally. Again, today's Speak Life affirmation is I am allowed all the time I need to recover emotionally. You heard it, you say it, you write it down, and remind yourself to speak that thing and make it happen because life be life in us all. Thank you again so much, Deonte. I truly appreciate you for your time, for your wisdom, and your integrity. I'm super proud of you. I'm so glad to be able to call you my family, and I wish nothing but the best for you. And thank you for sharing your story.
Appreciate you for having me.
Yes,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
no problem. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.